You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning. It's September the 25th, 2023, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News found here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. Good morning, Rev Kelly. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm so happy that it's still so sunny and warm on our Monday mornings. We haven't had any rain or like crazy weird weather or anything. It's like the summer's just staying with us. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, it's been a great clear sky. It's just blue sky, sunshine. Yeah. And actually, we've had lots of nights like that. I was just looking at the Ontario Storm Facebook page, Bancroft, even Marmora, like just down the road from me, seeing the Northern Lights. Wow. Yeah.
That's
Northern Lights is down as low as here. Yeah.
Happening right now. I'm going to Bancroft this weekend for a special Day of Reconciliation project. So maybe I will see them. I'll let you know if I do.
Maybe. Yeah. I was actually there on the weekend. I didn't see them, but I was in the spot where I couldn't see it other than straight up because there was a lot of trees and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Yes, exactly. Anything new and exciting you want to mention before we get into the news?
Nothing but the news.
Okay, I got two things I got to mention.
Tell me, yeah.
All right, first, I got to say happy birthday to my son, Adam. Tomorrow he turns 45.
Happy birthday.
And I'm going to say belated birthday to a new listener, and that's Dawson. He's 21. He just turned 21 yesterday, so that's why it's belated birthday.
Happy birthday, Dawson. Happy birthday, Adam.
Yes, exactly. All righty. On with the news. First story up. Survey finds that many Canadian nurses don't receive medical cannabis training. And this is coming to us from the International Cannabis Business Conference.
Shocking. Humans have consumed cannabis for many centuries. It's unknown when the first human discovered the therapeutic benefits of the cannabis plant. However, we know that it was at least several thousand years ago.
And it wasn't until the last century that medical cannabis was prohibited, exactly. And the negative impact of that prohibition cannot be overstated. In addition to making criminals out of patients, cannabis prohibition also significantly hindered medical cannabis research.
Wow. Additionally, cannabis prohibition has created a situation in which medical professionals are woefully uneducated on the topic of cannabis. With so many humans consuming cannabis, there's no excuse for medical professionals to know little to nothing about the cannabis plant. I like how this article is written.
Now, a recent survey conducted in Canada highlights the problem with most participating Canadian nurses, indicating that they did not receive any training about medical cannabis. Fewer than 4 in 10 Canadian nursing students say that they received information about the use of medical cannabis during the training, according to the survey. It was published in the Journal of Nurse Education today. And just on a side note there, I did talk to somebody, a nurse who has just recently graduated. Yeah. And it was just a very small little snippet of stuff that they had on there in Canada.
Wow. Over 300 nursing students participated in the survey. Only 38% acknowledged receiving any education on cannabis in their nursing program. Over 90% of respondents acknowledged that they would feel uncomfortable discussing cannabis with their patients without further educational training.
And as now the study's authors also said education on both medical and non-medical cannabis is needed to support future nurses addressing cannabis use in their clinical practices. Nursing institutions must implement and evaluate circular to ensure nursing students are adequately prepared to address cannabis use in their clinical practice with their own fitness to practice.
Cannabis has been legally available in Canada, of course, via doctor's authorizations since 2001, and the Canadian government legalized cannabis for adult use in 2018. These studies' findings are consistent with those of prior surveys of health professionals in Canada and the United States, which report that most doctors and nurses believe that they receive insufficient training with regards to cannabis. So not only is it documented that they aren't, they're saying it. They're actually saying they're not receiving that information and the education.
Exactly. And as the
Wow.
article says, cannabis has been legal medically in this country for
Yeah.
22 years.
Wow.
Why is
Going
there
on?
not any education
Big
going to
pharma.
research?
We know why.
It's just ridiculous.
We know why.
You know why.
Despicable.
All right, on to the next story. And this one comes to us from Entrepreneur, and that headline there says, Republican lawmakers urge the DEA to reject cannabis reclassification.
It's in a letter to the Drug Enforcement Administration, Administrator Ann Milgram. 14 Republican lawmakers urged the agency to reject the Department of Health and Human Services recommendation to reclassify cannabis from Schedule 1 under the Controlled Substance Act to Schedule 3.
It is irresponsible for HHS to recommend that marijuana be removed from Schedule 1. It would also be irresponsible for DEA to act on this recommendation, the letter states. Our country relies on DEA to enforce our nation's drug laws. We ask you to uphold your mission by rejecting any effort to remove cannabis from Schedule 1. Ooh, it's not that they don't like Schedule 3. It's just the fact that they don't like it being moved. They want it to remain as a Schedule 1 drug.
Cannabis, the plant.
Yeah.
The letter cites National Institute on Drug Abuse Research that suggests that 30% of cannabis users have cannabis use disorder, claims that cannabis has higher THC content than 25 years ago. An American Academy of Pediatrics study that suggests that 1,375% increase in accidental cannabis edible ingestion by children under 6 between 2017 and 2021, and previous DEA denials of petitions to reclassify cannabis. So they're using this garbage, which isn't even real statistics, as their proof.
Yeah. The letter contends that cannabis does not have a currently accepted medical use, and notes that Food and Drug Administration approved drugs that contain either natural or synthetic cannabis are non-intoxicating.
You know what I call cannabis use disorder? Using cannabis for medicine, using cannabis for wellness, making sure that you have it in your body. I can't believe they're even saying these things right now.
I know.
The FDA has never approved cannabis as a treatment for any disease or condition, the letter states.
The letter is signed by Senators James Langford, Mark Wayne Mellon, and it lists a whole bunch of other people's names there. And no. Now, there's people who are bringing up the argument that it shouldn't go to Schedule 3 because of particular reasons, as far as what it's going to do, as far as it's not going to improve the banking system, or it's not going to improve this, or it's not going to improve that.
Right.
These guys just don't want it because they don't want it.
But it will improve some medical things. So it will improve some conditions. It will improve some laws. It will improve some research. They'll be able to do research on it. So it's better than one. I mean, it's not great. It's not what we want, but it's better than one. And these people opposing it is disgusting.
In the way that they're opposing, I'd rather see them oppose it because of
it's not good enough.
Good enough. All right, on to the next story. This one might be surprising to some people. In Thailand, they plan a cannabis law rewrite to allow only medical sales. This comes to us from MJ Biz Daily.
Goodbye cannabis tourism in Thailand. The new prime minister said the Southeast Asian country plans to rewrite its cannabis laws to allow only medical use, and that's a move that would halt widespread recreational sales and fundamentally alter the industry.
Exactly. In an interview with Bloomberg, Prime Minister, let's just call him Thatson, who was elected in August, said there was a need to rewrite the law to stop adult use sales from occurring.
The problem about drugs has been widespread lately, he says in an interview. He says his government would rectify the country's cannabis policies and allow only medical use as part of the middle ground solution.
Thailand decriminalized cannabis about a year ago, but failed to immediately implement comprehensive regulations and enforcement mechanisms to restrict what would be sold and where. Thousands of stores opened and ensuring regulatory vacuum, promoting politicians to pledge to address the issue.
And in 2022, the Thai health minister decriminalization of cannabis did not amount to full legalization, and the sale of recreational cannabis was still not permitted.
Yeah, and the new prime minister said there was already a consensus among Thailand's 11 parties on the plan to rewrite the country's cannabis laws. Yeah,
It's going to
goodbye
change,
cannabis
but
tourism.
it's so neat what they did. I hope somebody documents it and then puts it out for all of us to see, because what's happened there in the last year is like nothing on this planet that's ever happened
I know,
in
it's gone
cannabis.
from a place where people were, could be hung,
Yeah,
basically,
literally.
to a place
Yeah.
where it was free for all, and now they're gonna try to rein it back in.
Like thousands and thousands of store on their little tiny space. Thousands and millions of people were traveling there to go to this because it was so
Yeah,
you could get pizza, you could get a fun fair, you could ride here, and it was crazy what they I know. I'm
yeah,
sad it's
and
going. It was neat.
no, yeah, exactly. All right, on to our next story. This one comes to us from Healthline. Headline says, will the FDA approve psychedelic MDMA to treat PTSD?
Ooh, let's hope so. The psychedelic drug MDMA, commonly known as ecstasy or Molly, has moved one step closer to receiving approval from the Food and Drug Administration as a treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD.
This comes after a second large phase 3 clinical trial found that the medicine in combination with the psychotherapy was effective at reducing symptoms in a radically diverse group of people with moderate to severe PTSD.
Now, a lot of the patient population that we would work with have tried everything else or have been struggling with ineffective PTSD treatments for a long time, says Brett Waters, co founder and executive director of Reason for Hope, a group that advocates on behalf of veterans and others on issues related to psychedelic medicine and assisted therapies.
So this development is very exciting and hopefully will lead to significant new treatment options for people who really need it, he told Healthline.
In the new study, sponsored by not-profit Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, MAPS, 104 people with moderate or severe PTSD received MDMA-assisted therapy using a protocol developed by MAPS or an inactive placebo with therapy.
After 3 8-hour treatment sessions spaced approximately 1 month apart, 71% of the people in the MDA-assisted therapy group no longer met the diagnosis criteria for PTSD, compared to 48% of those in the placebo with therapy group. The results of the clinical trial were published back in September 14th, so 2 weeks ago.
MDMA-assisted therapy seemed to work equally well regardless of the severity of a person's PTSD and in people at risk of alcohol or substance use disorder or with any history of child trauma.
It also worked just as well across racial and ethnic groups. 1/3 of participants identified their race as other than white, and over 1/4 identified their ethnicity as Hispanic, Latino.
So people from racial and ethnic minorities and other diverse groups are underrepresented in clinical trial research, even though some of these groups face a higher risk of certain health conditions. For example, a 2001 study found that Black people have the highest risk of developing PTSD during their lifetime compared to other racial groups.
Nahil Badhan, his PhD, is a clinical psychologist at North Wales Health Zucker Hillside Hospital, said one of the strengths of the study is its greater diversity. He says this study did a much better job of being able to recruit individuals from non-white populations while still demonstrating a powerful effect. So that's a great leap forward for this field.
The results of the new study were similar to an earlier phase 3 clinical trial by the same group, in which 90 people received MDMA assisted therapy or an inactive placebo with therapy. In that study, after 3-hour treatment sessions spaced around 4 weeks apart, 67% of those who received MDMA assisted therapy no longer qualified for a PTSD diagnosis, compared to 32% of those who received this placebo within the therapy.
Lots of numbers there. Good numbers for those people on the, how it's helping. For people with PTSD who benefit from this treatment, MDMA potentially enhances psychotherapy by reducing sessions of fear, threat, and negative emotions. The authors write. However, while the results of these 2 trials are promising, they caution that MDMA assisted therapy may not work for everybody. And that makes sense.
Yeah. He's quoted as saying many people are not willing to take psychedelics for whatever reason. And there are people, as you can see from the study result, who have negative side effects from taking such a powerful medicine.
The most common adverse effects experienced by participants in the new study who took MDMA included muscle tightness, nausea, decreased appetite, and excessive sweating. Most cases were mild or moderate and went away on their own.
Sounds pretty normal and not really anything bad there for what they're getting.
I know. Quite often there's medications that say cause death. I'm not seeing that in that list.
I know. May cause. I know it's horrible, and that's the chemicals, right? Although none of the participants who took MDMA had a severe reaction, Vadhen said a minority of people who use a psychedelic have lasting negative outcomes, such as after a bad trip. I've never heard of that before.
Oh, bad
Just during a bad trip, not after.
So, for people who can't or don't want to undergo psychedelic assisted therapy, we need to improve existing treatments to accommodate those people. One of the promising aspects of the new study is that 2% of the people in the MDMA assisted therapy group dropped out of the trial early. In the placebo with therapy group, 16% dropped out, which the researchers said may be due to them receiving less effective treatment. And that's what I was going to say when I was done that. It was probably because they found it didn't work. It was just a placebo.
Yeah, exactly. In contrast, a 2022 study found that the dropout rates among veterans with PTSD receiving psychotherapy was 47 to 56%, saying, I think that there will be a large demand for this treatment if it's approved, particularly among the veteran population, including those who haven't been helped by gold standard therapies such as SSRIs and other medications.
Now, MAPS and other groups have been advocating for legalization of MDMA, which is a Schedule I drug in the United States, a federal designation which we know is, they say, is misuse and no accepted medical use. MDMA is also illegal in most countries. However, in July of this year, Australia became the first country to allow psychiatrists to prescribe MDMA for the treatment of certain mental health conditions.
That's incredible. MAPS plans to seek formal approval from the FDA later this year because the agency has designated MDMA as a breakthrough therapy, a category for potentially promising treatments for serious or life-threatening conditions. The application should be evaluated quickly.
And if approved by the FDA as a treatment for PTSD, the Secretary of Health and Human Services would recommend the medicine be rescheduled to a less restrictive tier. After that, the DEA would release an interim rule for the rescheduling of the medicine. That'd be like the dealing with the cannabis end. Right
Yeah. Wow. MDMA would still have restrictions. How many would depend on the final scheduling. It would no longer be strictly illegal. The Lieutenant General Martin R. Steele, a retired 3-star general in the United States Marine Corps and co-founder of Reason for Hope, said even after FDA approval, there would still be a lot of work to do to ensure that people, especially veterans, can access and afford this treatment.
We need to train more providers using veteran-focused protocols, both inside and outside the Veterans Administration. In addition, treatment options such as community-based care and group therapy and robust coverage by health insurance will be needed.
Yes. I like how they mentioned that, please, the coverage by health insurance, saying we what we don't want to happen after this success is for only a minority of people to be able to afford the treatment, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see this goes on for a bit here still, but yeah,
It's a great
it's good to see, that they've taken this to be able to improve people's health,
Yeah, it's
their
important.
lives, the whole bit.
Yep.
And at one time it was just basically, as I said, it was ecstasy, it was rave, a party drug, all that. And
Yeah.
now look at it.
I loved it. Back then, dance all night. Now you know what I mean? But, now I'm thinking back into my 20s, that was a happy feeling. And that wasn't,
It
when
was,
I'm reading these articles, I'm reminded of that. And I'm thinking that's so incredible how they've gone from this raving ecstasy drug that's what we would call it, of course, back then. And we never thought of it as
Yeah.
medicine. We just dance all night. Now they're taking that and they're helping save these people's
Yeah.
lives. Wow. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's it's amazing. All right, on to the next story. Last one before we go to break. Cannabis brain effects study struggles to attract Black UK users. As we saw in that last report we just read, they were really happy about the way the diversity was amongst all the different people. And here they're
Right.
having problems on this one. Just trying to get
Absolutely. It's a major study into the effects of cannabis on the human brain, and it's at risk of being partially thwarted because too few Black users have agreed to take part.
White people have come forward in large numbers, offering to get involved in King's College London's £2.5 million study of how the medicine may contribute to paranoia and psychosis in some users, but not others. It is hoped that the project will pave the way for wider medicinal use and make illegal recreational use safer.
Attempts to recruit Black and Asian people who smoke, vape, or eat cannabis have been met with suspicion over how data about illegal cannabis use would be used and distrust of the establishment. Wow.
Mhm. There have been wider concern about representation of Black and minority and ethnic people in clinical research in the UK. A study last year into trials of the COVID-19 vaccines and therapies found that despite the disease's impact on minorities, they were repeatedly unrepresented.
Yeah. Whoa. The Cannabis and Me trial team has spent 18 months trying to build a 3,000 strong cohort of cannabis users in the London area, including posting on cannabis dealing hidden market Instagram accounts and advertising on YouTube. But they still need hundreds more Black and African and Caribbean and Asian people who, in the words of one recruitment video, are currently blazing, slang for smoking cannabis.
Dr. Marta Divortai, an internationally recognized expert in cannabis and psychosis, is leading the study and said it could pave the way for screening that can make physicians in the UK and across the world more confident where appropriate in prescribing cannabis safely. It could also allow people who want to keep using cannabis recreationally to check its potentially long-term effect on their mental health.
So people are not signing up because it's scary. The way that it's being put out is basically very scary. So they're not
Yeah,
agreeing
they
to
don't
be
like
part
the
of
way
it.
it's being done, by the
Yeah.
what I'm reading. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It could also allow people who want to keep using cannabis recreationally to check its, oh, we said that, no, long-term impact on their mental health. So William Gadsby Smith, a marketing consultant leading in the recruitment drive, said it had been one of the most difficult he had ever undertaken.
He says, if you don't trust the police because of years of racist and corrupt police practices, you lump all of the establishment together. And it can be easier to say no than yes. He's right.
Yeah,
Attempts to
go ahead.
attempts to interest The Voice, Britain's leading Black newspaper, in covering the research has so far failed, said Gatsby Smith.
So they can't get anybody to sign up for this.
No.
Let's see. Are we going on? Is it still cannabis here? This week, Unjust, a Brixton-based and advocacy organization that addresses racism in the legal system, said it was declined to help in the recruitment push. Its founding director, Katrina French, said that she saw as the project's focus on cannabis and psychosis could result in policymakers ignoring the harms of prohibition and furthering the criminalization of Black males. She also said that the project team had left it too late to approach unjust and should have involved it at an earlier stage. Wow.
It feels very extractive, she says. 4 out of the 5 people being treated for cannabis-induced psychosis at Di Fordy's clinic in South London are from the Black and minority ethnic backgrounds.
Official data suggests cannabis use may be higher among Black people than white and Asian people. In 2014, 14.3 of the Black men told a government survey that had used illicit drugs of any kind in the previous 12 months, compared to 11.8 of white men. Women from both ethnic groups were less likely to have used drugs, but the differential was similar. So they're boycotting it then. It just really comes down to their boycotting.
Yeah, exactly. Right. We'll just wrap that one up there.
Wow.
It goes on some more there.
I mean, it's good that UK is having this conversation, but they're not legal there, and their laws are so draconian. It sounds like what they're doing is they're trying to enforce those laws and not even look at possible legalization of any kind.
Yeah. And it looks like they're looking for the bad instead of looking at things.
Good for the people for standing up and saying we're not taking part of that. Good for them.
Yeah. Well, break time.
Yes.
That's right. Time for a commercial and time to hear from those who help us here at the network. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News, found here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor? If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. And we're back for a medication session, and we're ready to bring you some more news. Yes, we are. All right. What do you say?
Yes.
We get right at her, right? Oh, I hit that wrong button. There we go. No problem. Hey, that happens every once in a while, right? What can we do? All right, we're heading off to Minnesota
Oh, good.
because the AP is informing everybody that. Come on. Trying to get it load.
It'll load.
It's taking its time.
That's okay. It's Minnesota.
Just sitting there. Come on. We'll get there. Here it comes. Okay, all right. There we go. We finally got it up. Minnesota's would-be head of cannabis regulation quits amid reports she sold illegal products.
That's a good one. Recently appointed director, Minnesota's new cannabis regulatory agency. Her name is Erin Dupree, and she resigned because there were reports that she sold illegal cannabis products in the state.
Dupree ran a business that sold products exceeding state limits on THC potency, owed money to former associates, and accumulated tens of thousands of dollars in tax liens, according to Minnesota Public Radio.
So it's Lunacy Cannabis Company, the business Dupree founded in Apple Valley, Minnesota last year, posted on its now deactivated TikTok account about its edible products containing 10 milligrams of THC per serving, 150 milligrams per package, although state law only allows hemp-derived edibles to contain up to 5% of THC per serving and 50 milligrams per package.
I have Dupree says in a statement on Friday that I have never knowingly sold any non-compliant product, and when I became aware of them, I removed the products from the inventory, she says.
Okay. However, it's become clear that I have become a distraction that would stand in the way of the important work that needs to be done, she added.
Her role as the state's first director of Office of Cannabis Management would have begun on October the 2nd. One of the responsibilities, and I take it, and the buck stops with me, is the appointment of literally thousands of people, according to Governor Tim Walz. He's in this case, the process did not work, and we got this wrong.
Oh, wow. Waltz said in a Friday statement that the interim director of the cannabis office, Charlene Briner, would remain in that interim role. That's according to the Minnesota Public Radio. I don't know what to say about this, Al. Just because she sold the incorrect product, she lost her position. She had to resign. I don't think that's pretty cool.
And was that before her? Was that before she received the position?
Yeah. And there was another article I read about this, where she's really upset about it. Like she was like, she's very passionate about cannabis. She's very passionate about cannabis legalization, and so it's disappointing to see this happen to her.
Yeah. I see Minnesota, one of 23rd state to legalize. Yeah. They, maybe a little more information. Okay, on to the next one. We are off to MJ Biz Daily because their state regulators want Congress to redefine, regulate hemp and Delta-8 THC.
An association of state cannabis regulators is asking Congress to include in the next Farm Bill new rules governing hemp and hemp-derived cannabinoids, including a new definition for what constitutes hemp versus cannabis.
If adopted, the proposed rules would have broad implications for products containing hemp-derived intoxicating cannabinoids, including Delta-8 THC. Such products have exploded in popularity since the 2018 Farm Bill was enacted.
And have made people sick because of the synthetic cannabis. Now, the Cannabis Regulators Association asked House and Senate committee chairs in September 15 letter to include key initial changes that are urgently needed to rein in what's become an unruly competitor to strictly regulated cannabis.
At the top of the cannabis wish list is a new definition that would draw a clear distinction between hemp grown for fiber, food, and feed and hemp intended for THC or CBD extraction.
CANRA, formed in 2020, is also asking Congress to redefine what constitutes hemp. Currently, hemp is defined as any cannabis sativa plant containing 0.3% THC or less.
Now they want the definition rewritten and include both THC and THCA, which converts to THC when heated. The regulators also want different THC limits for what's allowed in a hemp plant versus what's allowed in a final product.
They also want a federal regulator with a background in public health and consumer protection to regulate hemp-derived products and close any further loopholes product makers might exploit.
Now, the Farm Bill is rewritten every 5 years and is due for renewal in this Congress. Federal legislators have yet to release any draft forms of a new Farm Bill, but they are facing a long agenda, including avoiding a long government shutdown as well as a long-awaited cannabis banking reform. And if they're waiting for that cannabis banking reform, that thing is just going to take forever.
Yeah. Good luck, guys. No, I think
Good
that it's
luck.
good that they're doing this. I think it's important that they're doing this, especially with the synthetic, especially when you're
Mhm.
seeing unregulated CBD vitamins that are everywhere. Like it went crazy the way kind of like how they did in Thailand. So I think that you'll see those regulations
Yeah,
change with
yeah.
the Farm Bill, and hopefully it will still remain medicine, and hopefully it'll still be, the right ways to do it.
Right.
But it's good that they're checking in on it for sure.
Mhm. All right, next bill, our next story. This one comes to us from the Marijuana Moment. Pennsylvania lawmakers will renew push for psilocybin research with forthcoming bill.
Yes, that's fantastic. Pennsylvania state lawmakers are pushing for legislation that supports research on psilocybin mushrooms for mental health treatment. The bill comes amid a wave of psilocybin policy reform nationwide.
Representative Jennifer O'Hara and Senator Tracy Pennycook initially introduced House Bill 1959 in 2021. It was intended to support psilocybin clinical studies regulated by the state health department under the authority of an institutional review board. It also would have supported production by authorized entities. It did not, however, include any language to legalize or decriminalize psilocybin.
The bill has never made it past the Health Committee. In 2022, many of the same lawmakers amended and reintroduced it, removing the provision for authorized psilocybin growers. Pennychuck and O'Mara were reintroduced to the bill with some changes after the legislature meets on September 26. And now, according to a conversation with O'Mara in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, she expects House Health Committee Majority Chair Republican Dan Frankel to support the bill as he has in the past. Other supporters are also hopeful.
Yeah, just so you know, the rep before the name is representative.
Oh,
The party
representative.
their party is in the brackets.
I know nothing about American politics. I fumble everything. I
that
don't
is-
even know what's going on there.
Yeah,
Republican departments. Yeah.
yeah. I believe there's also bipartisan support for this movement. Pittsburgh resident Dr. Sahid Alamet, co-founder of the Psychedelic Pharmacists Association, told Filter, "I'm optimistic. Having lobbied this bill up and down the halls of Capitol building, there were a lot of representatives who expressed support and interest."
Now, under previous versions of the bill, the state health department would evaluate the benefit of psilocybin treatment for mental health conditions. The institutional review board would have the power to allocate funds to help financial certain studies, but would be required to prioritize studies on military veterans and retired first responders. Wow, excellent.
Nice. Yeah. Approved investigators could carry out studies on conditions like PTSD, depression, anxiety, substance use disorder, or traumatic brain injuries. The health department would meanwhile report regularly and legislator on progress with psilocybin research and issue a final report at a set date. It would be required to look at the results of psilocybin legalization or decriminalization in other states nationwide. It would then make recommendations for regulating psilocybin treatment.
Pennychuck, an Air Force veteran, has described living with PTSD after an accident trapped her inside a burning helicopter. She said that she personally wants to access psilocybin therapy and hopes to be patient number one. Omara's husband is also a veteran living with PTSD.
Advocates in North Carolina are pushing for a similar bill. Other states, including Maryland, Connecticut, Washington, and Texas, have also considered or approved bills allowing psychedelic research and therapy to benefit veterans.
What? Every
Yeah.
day, on average, nearly 17 veterans lose their lives to suicide. Veterans are at increased suicide risk compared to the general population, especially veteran women. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
17 a day, Al, is what they're saying. Veterans in the United States of America take their lives. Wow.
That is unreal. That is huge. And
Wow.
I was recently talking to a veterans group, and numbers like that, you can understand why they are supportive of psychedelics. Yeah. Now, Al Alamonte says that we just need more options. And if this is an option, we shouldn't let the stigma from the 1960s and 70s and the war on drugs prevent us from exploring something that can truly help people achieve sustained relief.
They've got proof. They've got people saying it. It's saving their lives. What on earth else do they
Yeah.
need?
I know, eh?
God, give it to them.
Yeah, was it, they always say, well, that's just anecdotal. It's just, there's so much anecdotal out there that they've got to open their eyes. And, listening to the number of states that they said there that we're looking at doing some of this, it is encouraging to see that there are more and more states that are open to it.
Well, with 17 people a day taking their own lives that are war vets, I mean, they can't, they can't, how can you, that's like, how could you even not? Wow.
I know, right?
You have to.
Yeah, like as you said, they fought for freedom. Now let's help them.
Absolutely.
Let's help
Change is
them with
needed.
their freedom.
Yeah.
To get their lives back.
That's right.
Exactly. All right. Next story from the Fresh Toast. Marijuana users gain less weight than non-users.
Okay.
People always think munchies,
Yeah.
junk food, right?
Nope. The past couple of months, a series of studies have slowly dismantled the myth of the typical cannabis user, a stoner slob prone to eating an inordinate amount of munchies. Cannabis does not make you lazy, and the states with legalized cannabis are the healthiest in the nation. In addition, a study from the University of Colorado demonstrated how cannabis can motivate you to exercise. Wow.
Yeah. A study published in the International Journal of Apology shows that people who use cannabis tend to weigh less. Now, I'm going to say Omema, an assistant professor of family medicine at Michigan State University, was lead author of the study. Her findings demonstrated that over time, cannabis users generally gain less weight than non-cannabis users.
Over a 3-year period, all participants showed a weight increase, but interestingly, those who used cannabis had less of an increase compared to those that never used it. Our study builds on mounting evidence that this opposite effect occurs.
We found that users, even those who just started, were more likely to be at a normal, healthier weight and stay at that weight, she added. Only 15% of persistent users were considered obese, compared to 20% of non-users.
To conduct the research, scientists examined data from the National Epidemiologic, I'm probably saying that wrong, survey of alcohol and related conditions, who also examined, while also examining the body mass index, or BMI, of 33,000 participants, all aged 18 or older. When comparing the numbers, they found a 2-pound difference between users and non-users, which they say is prevalent given the sample size.
How cannabis stimulated this type of decrease in weight gain amongst users up for debate. It could be something that's more behavioral, like someone becoming more conscious of their food intake as they worry about the munchies after cannabis use and gaining weight. Or it could be the cannabis use itself, which can modify how certain cells or receptors respond in the body and can ultimately affect weight gain. But they say more research needs to be done.
Interesting.
Well, maybe it has to do with a lot of people getting into those sativa style strains and just
Yes.
doing a lot of exercise,
Get us
right?
going.
Being very active, you know how they always
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Right?
I find that cannabis curbs my appetite. I find that it when I consume cannabis, I don't feel like eating at all. And I know
Oh,
that there are other people that have that effect too.
oh,
So it's
oh,
other people don't get the munchies. I never get the munchies.
it's I have, because of my Crohn's disease, right? It
Yeah.
was 6 years ago. I was I was hospitalized. I went in. Before I went in, I was at 143 pounds, and here I am 6 years later, and I'm still not back to that weight.
No.
No,
Cannabis.
I just, and if I didn't consume cannabis, where would my weight be?
Right? Where would it
Yeah,
be?
I think it would be down because of the fact that I've used it as a medicine in order to help me eat.
Yes. Yeah. And many
So
people
much,
do.
yeah, like, consume something and I'll just gain weight.
Yeah.
They're suggesting, here, eat these puddings or
Yeah.
this Jello or
Anything.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
gain
Pack
weight,
on the
Al.
pounds. Yeah. Cannabis.
So, yeah. All right, last story of the day. This comes to us from Punch. The NDLEA destroys 16 hectares of cannabis farm.
That's so much. That's so
That
much.
is a lot.
That's massive. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency on Sunday said it destroyed a cannabis farm in Ekiti State. It spans across 16 hectares of farm life, while 4,000 kilograms of different illicit cannabis were intercepted in multiple raids across the country.
The agency disclosed this in a statement made available by the NDLEA Director, Media and Advocacy, Femi Babafima, via the agency's website. According to the statement, the agency, get it out of the way. The agency between Monday and Wednesday bust some force in a local government area of Ekiti State where the cannabis farmland was discovered and set ablaze, destroying about 40 tons of cannabis plants.
What?
Could you just imagine being downwind from that?
I would want to be. I would want to be. 40 tons.
40 tons.
Tons of cannabis. And just set it ablaze with like a torch.
Yeah.
In a massive operation between Monday 11th and Wednesday 13th September, NDLA operates stormed thick forests. The local government said they destroyed 40 tons of cannabis plants covering 16 acres of farmland. Stormed the forest, Sal.
Storm the forest. He added that the NDLEA operatives on Friday along this road intercepted 2 Sienna buses conveying 1,194 cylinders of nitrous oxide, popularly known as laughing gas, which weighed 2,500 kilograms, meant to deliver to. So they got laughing gas in there as well.
That as part of the bus, they were. What on earth would you need that for? I don't want to know.
I don't think it had anything to do with cannabis.
I don't think it has anything to do with cannabis.
Unless the cannabis was so bad that people wouldn't get a buzz off it, so they're going to give them laughing gas so they can laugh.
Oh man! Wow. They talk about the cylinders weighing that. So it looks like they caught that. They got that. They got some cannabis here. Let's try if we move forward. They had the trailer, illegal possession.
They say something.
Wait a second. Sorry. Hold on. Somebody was arrested for illegal possession of 89.1 kilograms of skunks. It says that out of skunks. It says skunks.
I know. I'm reading that.
Skunks.
It does.
Wait a second. Hold on.
So I guess
kilograms.
it's against the law to have
do you think
skunk?
they mean skunk weed? Do you think that's their way of saying skunk?
I'm thinking they. I don't.
Wait a
I'm
second.
Just
Bearing
skunk.
cartons of Maggi, a skunk consignment loaded into the truck. Is that like weapons? Maybe. I have no idea what this is.
I don't know.
They arrested men.
I have no idea either.
And they burned cannabis, and then they also had some skunks and some laughing gas. Okay, so that's what the story. Clearly, when I read the first part of it, I didn't read past.
Yeah. Now, at the beginning of the article, they talked about the cannabis and other drugs, and that's what we're getting into because they're talking about pentazocine and injection. They're talking about some other injection stuff. So yeah, these are other drugs that they're talking about. What they got
Something was
there.
happening there in this place that involved 16 hectares of cannabis and other things, bad things.
Yeah.
from the
Now,
sound.
while they say a total of 183 kilograms of Ghana loud, a strain of cannabis, was recovered from body compartments of a bus intercepted at Lagos back in September the 20th.
No, I'm affiliated.
They had 473 bottles of codeine syrup as well.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Codeine
Yeah.
syrup. Blocks of compressed cannabis weighing 258 kilograms were recovered from a Toyota Camry. It even gives the license plate. Wow.
Yeah.
News
there
from
you
all
go.
over the world. Cannabis news from all
Yes,
over the
that's the
world.
thing. When you cover world news, you just never know what you're going to come across.
Right. But it's interesting to always talk about that and see what's happening worldwide. We talk
Right.
about the US so much and their global legalization. Then we talk about other places with their legalization, but we don't hear enough about what's still happening. Arrests and people are being hanged still,
Yeah.
and people, hectares are being burned, people's medicines.
Mhm.
So this is still, we're very lucky and fortunate to live in Canada where we're not hearing these stories. Of course, these stories from back, 20 years ago when you were first reporting all of this stuff,
Yeah.
where there were places that were burnt and people that were arrested for these kinds of skill operations. Not so much
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it still happens, which is wrong.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be happening. People shouldn't be being killed
No,
for a plant.
not for a plant.
And unfortunately, it's still going on. And
Yeah.
it's I don't know what you can really do. There's some governments that are just dead against it, as you saw in the first story, one of the first stories we talked about.
Mhm.
The Republicans in the U.S. don't want to have anything to do with changing the schedule. They want to keep it
Don't even want to change the schedule.
yeah, they want to keep it as non-medical use. Like there's no medicine value to it.
No.
But yet all these lives are changing. You got 42 states with medicinal use.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that
They
has
can't
to be
even.
changed.
It's
No
silly.
doubt about that. Yeah. So what do you got coming up? Anything exciting?
We've got lots of shows on KGL TV coming up,
Mhm.
but we're gonna announce a Cannabis Temple date very soon. So we'll be back
Oh,
together in
good.
person with everybody very soon now.
Good. I look forward to
Yeah.
that and finding out. And I'll make sure I let Mr. Squishy know.
We'll let Mr. Squishy know. And what have you got coming up? How's CBG TV?
CBG TV for today. There's obviously us on the go, and then tomorrow is the Mushy Moment
Ooh,
comes
love that
out on
one.
CBG TV,
Yeah.
as well as Token Talks comes out on CBG TV.
Oh, good.
There's a schedule at our website,
Okay,
cbgtv.com,
Excellent.
and there'll be some updates coming up.
Can't wait for those.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. All right. Other than that, that's a wrap for the news. All right. From the Legacy420.com news desk, that's the news for today. We hope you found it educational and informative. Thank you to Legacy420.com, the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, Limestone City Hydroponics, and to you, our viewers. Catch our next Psychedelics and Cannabis educational news broadcast. It's Glenn and Cindy this coming Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.